Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is M Pulse, episode number 9. We're recording this live, well, between Peggy and I at least, and it is March 11th. It's daylight savings time. Whatever you want to do, leap ahead, spring ahead. We've lost all boundaries of time and space, but we have been able to connect on this. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv. You can find me at Untether.tv or at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter. You know why you go to Untether.tv. It's a place where you've got over 370 long-form interviews, great insight and articles around the mobile industry and what you should be doing for your business and how you should be using mobile in your business. But this is our episode. I always love these things because I get to hear what's going on in the other side of the world, some analytical approach. And with me, as always, for this show is Peggy Ann Saltz. Peggy, welcome.
Hello, Rob. Here we are on a Sunday. Busy bees that we are.
It is Sunday, and I love doing this on Sunday, but just because last week was just such a, I don't even know. You had Mobile World Congress ending, and it seemed like the Mobile World Congress flu went through everything. And then now it's South by Southwest. We're right in the middle of South by Southwest Interactive. So it's just a crazy time right now for the industry. But I'm glad we could connect, Peggy.
It's a fantastic time. Just sort of figuring out all the highlights from Mobile World Congress. Now we have South by Southwest. We have material for shows for the next year, Rob. Not to mention all the analysis that I do in companion posts for you over here at Mobile Groove. And again, just fantastic at Mobile World Congress. Met a lot of people with some fantastic reports, things we don't see, everything under the radar, everything just the way I like it. So a lot to discuss and a lot that I'll be writing up over here at mobilegroove.com.
That's the thing with this industry. It's like that. All of a sudden, you got so much. We go from drought after Christmas to just a flood of activity as a result of these things at the beginning of the year. Everything restarts. Thankfully, January, in theory, you're supposed to ease back into it, but I don't believe that either.
No, not with CES.
No. It hits you right smack dab in the middle of it. And I loved goes into CES and then it's Mobile World Congress and South by Southwest, and then there's a whole bunch of other things that are happening in the spring, and we're going to be getting into that. But I just want to remind everybody, you come here to get a little bit of insight, a lot of numbers, some trends that are happening in the industry that we picked up during the past week, as well as we sit down with somebody in the mobile industry for an interview. And we are in the middle. This is episode number 2 of our developer month. And we're going to do this, in 4 weeks. We're talking to developers about developers. And we've got a great guest today in Caroline Lewko from Whip at whipconnect.com. And I think that there's something that great insight from the development community. They just released a new book. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder about the interview. You got to come back and listen to that interview a little bit later on in the show. We certainly got a segment on the big ideas segment around some numbers from Peggy. Maybe I'm going to focus on South by Southwest around what's going on at South by Southwest, the big trend that's coming out of there. And we're going to wrap up with the Goblet of Rock, of course. And that's my pick this week. Sounds like a very full show, doesn't it?
It's full. It is great. And interestingly enough, we're in sync again by accident, which is for me always interesting because we get together and I brought my numbers and you brought your trend and what you're excited about, and it's all social. Even though we didn't plan it, it's all about social. So if it's okay with you, I'll kick off with mine.
Jump in, Peggy. It's all yours.
Dive right in there. Okay, well, in the run-up to Mobile World Congress, a lot of things happened, but we didn't pay attention to them because we were all getting ready for it, and we were talking about things like the Samsung Note, which instantly got really strong, positive response at Mobile World Congress. People were standing outside in lines just to check it out. So what I did was, in addition to picking up a print copy of the Net Size Guide, little shameless plug here for the book I write every year about the mobile industry. But what was interesting for me was we looked at one trend in here, a trend, meaning, yet to really have impact, about the impact of social messaging apps, WhatsApp, etc., on established business models, i.e. the old order, the operators, the companies that are thinking about revenues and what to do next. So we looked at that in this book. What is the impact of messaging apps on mobile operators? And I didn't think that we were actually going to have much of an impact to speak about. There certainly weren't numbers at that point. Through Ovum, we do have one report, got some play in the BBC and elsewhere right before Mobile World Congress about, well, just how much money are mobile operators potentially losing because we're using things like Facebook chat, WhatsApp, etc., all the usual suspects here. And so it's $13.9 billion that mobile operators are losing. That's what Ovum tells us. And I didn't have a look into the methodology. I'm also not entirely satisfied with the modeling here. So I won't give a thumbs up or thumbs down on the numbers at this point. But I did connect with Pamela Clark-Dixon, the analyst over at Inform I interviewed for the Net Size Guide, because I just wanted a little bit of a reality check. And for me, she is one of the analysts in messaging. She really knows her stuff, and she's sort of quietly professional. So no hype. I just get the facts and how things are. And catching up with her was a great opportunity, very refreshing. And she did draw my attention to some things about the report and the overall trend that we might want to consider. First and foremost, that mobile operators, yes, very likely that we're losing some revenues because of this. I won't say that's not the case, but we have to consider that they're probably gaining revenues that we're not measuring, on the other hand, from things like mobile data and mobile data packages, because if you're going to be having these apps, you need a smartphone and you need a data plan. So what they are losing on one hand, they might be gaining on the other, and I think that's a balance we need to consider. I'll be going into even more detail on this in my companion post to you, Rob, and all the stuff that I do because I'm so passionate about analytics and numbers. But I did want to leave you with just one other thought. In addition to the fact that there's a trade-off, that they're maybe not losing so much money as we think, ultimately, no matter what numbers it is, if it is 13.9 billion or whatever that they might be losing or what they might be gaining on the other hand, that still the message comes through. This ties into what you're going to be telling us about South by Southwest. The message is social is here, and it's something that operators need to deal with, and they have to think very seriously, and I would suggest now, not later, because it's not a trend, as I said in the Net Size Guide, it's for real. How are you going to work together with these companies? And how are you going to make your business work? And how are you going to make up for the revenues that you're losing? So I'll leave you with that, Rob, and I want to hear very much about your take on South by Southwest, social guy that you are.
Well, it's so funny because the carriers for so long charged so much money for text messages and SMS, where we know these numbers that are coming out there are staggering. Like the cost of a real SMS message is 1/100th or 1/1000th of the cost that they charge. So this was a precarious business to begin with, and companies like WhatsApp or even iMessenger or RIM's BBM,
BlackBerry Messenger, your favorite.
Like these guys, it was ripe for disruption when you're charging so much money. It's like advertising rates are so high online that they're bound to come crashing down. So it doesn't surprise me that that's a staggering number. But I don't believe that these guys. I think that carriers have the ability to differentiate a little bit more. So it's a big number, 13.9 billion. It's just like it's my bar tab at the club. No. All right. So in that social side, as we are getting more social, what I thought I would do is I would take a look at really what's going on at South by Southwest. And at South by Southwest, what I love about this is that there's always seems to be a grouping of technologies or similar technologies that are out there that kind of launch at South by Southwest. I guess when you get past launching in November, you wait for South by Southwest in March because it is the place to launch, and especially if it's a social app. So last year it was about group chatting, group discussion, group texting with GroupMe and Yobongo and a bunch of these other guys that came together. High Society. These were companies that built applications that allowed you to basically collect a whole bunch of people in your social group and have private chat sessions through your mobile devices. And Yobongo was actually just sold maybe 3 or 4 days ago So you start to see that a year ago they launched, a year later they are no longer in existence, and I think that that's what's happening in this industry. So this year, what we saw was very clearly, it's pretty cool actually. We saw we see the beginning of the social location apps, and it's the convergence really of social and location. And what that means is there's a couple of companies. There's a company called Banjo, which I did a great interview on Tether.tv. There's a company called Highlight, and then there's a company called Glancee. And these three companies are vying for this spot, the coveted best of South by Southwest spot. And what these guys are is they pull in your social graph. So all your Facebook friends, all your Twitter followers, all your, you name it, your Instagram followers. And they pull them into one application, and they notify you when somebody is near you that is part of your social graph. So you could be in the middle of South by Southwest, and walk down the street and be notified that, Peggy, if you were there and I was there and I didn't know, I could be notified that you're sitting in a bar or sitting in that hall or that lecture series or that restaurant, and I could just happen to go by. It gives you the distance that you are from them and everything. It's a pretty amazing tool. It could be pretty frightening if not done right as well. But I think that these are the big trends. This is the grouping that's happening in South by Southwest. I can't say that this year, and I think that this is the nascent industry. You got to remember, South by Southwest launched Foursquare, launched Gowalla, launched all these group chat and discussion, and now it's launching one of these big names: Highlight, Glancee, or Banjo. One of those companies is going to come back as the coveted best of South by Southwest, and they will be the leaders in this space going forward. Pretty cool to be a part of this. But if you really want some more information, go to Tether.tv and just watch the interview I did with Damien Patton, who's the CEO of Banjo. Just an awesome guy. Great, cool technology as well. What do you think? You think that's something that...
I mean, I'm gonna check into that. I wasn't aware of that, Rob. But you interview so many people, so quickly in such succession. I'm just curious because being based in Europe, we don't have South by Southwest. I've been speaking with people who actually want to bring one of those over because that gap between U.S., Europe, rest of world can be considerable. Although there is also innovation leapfrogging over here that then makes its way back to the U.S. So. But in social, definitely a North American phenomenon. How did he talk about I'm assuming that the CEO of Banjo, that this is all sort of, opt-in and with my permission, but, what happens to that social graph? And I've revealed it to him, even though it is with my permission. I'm just curious, could you give me a Reader's Digest version of how he's handling the creepy side of social?
Yeah, it's funny because Amber MacArthur is a local. She's a well-known social media expert, and she has a stock answer for this kind of stuff. Is that if you're worried about the social graph, if you're worried about being found, or if you're worried about what people know about you, don't participate. So that's always the number one thing, right? Just don't be a part of it. It's flippant.
Okay, that'll do it. It's like porn. Exactly. Don't watch it.
Exactly. But the reality is that there is a risk, and there will be backlash around this, and there will be a concern about this. And actually, Gigome did a really great article on the impact of something like this. Be cautious around how you use these tools because of that exact reason. You could run into the fact that people are stalking, right? And that's not, that's what happens with his check-in and software. In order to be able to be found, you have to stamp your location. So the process is really simple. I check in with a technology like a Facebook Places, which is what Highlight does. I check in with Foursquare, which or any of the other social check-in services, which is what Banjo keeps up to date. And you even tag location on Instagram photos or even Twitter posts, and that gets your location. And then based on your location, you're either in somebody's stream or you find out who's around you because you're in their stream. And it's just, you got to be cautious about how you use these tools. That's what I would definitely say.
Well, to be fair, if I would have had that at Mobile World Congress, that would have really rocked because all those people there, all those great minds, and I couldn't really, find them. Okay, there are ways to do that. I'm not saying I didn't, know about them, but it's still, if it was a lot easier, seamless, painless, it would really it would really be an advantage. So to be fair, I'm not going to think about the stalking aspect all the time. I'm going to think about that bump and connect thing that happens when you've got sort of really cool people nearby. What kind of great conversation could take place? What kind of startup could start up if you've got these people connecting? So that's where I'll leave it.
You know, there are, I think that a lot of these things started from that idea is that we're going to a location. Sonar is another company that I sat down with, and these guys are basically, they do it in the background. It's kind of like a little bit more of a you know, a proactive approach, is that you check in and then you use Sonar to see who's around you as well, and then you can reach out to them and says, hey, listen, I saw you on Sonar. It doesn't broadcast, or it doesn't tell you who's there unless you ask for it, but you can send them a note saying, hey, I saw you on Sonar that you're here. Why don't we connect while you're here? So it's very much, this is the beginning of this, I believe. It's pretty neat.
Which gets us to all of the opportunities out there for innovation technology, and I think brings us back to the topic of developers again, Rob.
It always does. You know, as we move forward in the mobile space, it's you know, it's we're collecting so much data right now. It's how do we take that data and create some value, a value layer on top of that, and that's all developers. It's all developers, Peggy. It is they have the ability to do this. They can manipulate that data, and I can't say enough about our guest, and I think that we should probably move right into that, which is Caroline Lewko, who is the, I don't even remember how I did. She's the chief purveyor of the rights of the developer, I think, isn't she?
Yeah, that about sums it up. Yeah.
She so we sat down just a few days ago. You guys were both post Mobile World Congress flu, I think is what it was.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and we managed to convince Caroline to come on and sit down and have a great conversation with us about her new book that they just launched. Do you have a copy of that, or is that?
Actually, I do.
Bring it up.
The handy fit in your backpack book, which I think is you know, the marketing stuff, the how-tos, and that's what's needed. So that's why we had her as a guest, and just to talk about the organization. I think the organization itself and how that's evolving is a story right there.
I love what she's doing. I think that she's done such a great job growing this thing, and it's a labor of love, I tell you, because the amount of effort that it goes into creating these communities that she's had, but it pays off very well. And she just dominates that. For somehow, like, she had 1,100 people at the Whip Jam at Mobile World Congress.
Yeah.
And she knows how to build community, and she should.
Yeah.
She's done it herself, and then she does it
what it's all
for all the other
about.
carriers and all the other development communities. She builds them out there for people. I'm just pulling up now. You'll see it. This is what we are going to talk about very briefly. Is the in depth. I mean, in a moment, the what is it called? The Mobile Developers Guide to the Parallel Universe. That's the book that she's got out. You'll see it up on her website. So why don't we just dive into to Caroline's interview? Here's Caroline Lewko. Well, we are back, and of course, this is our Developer Month, the focus on developers. Developers. I bet you we could have killed that, I know, but developers. This world in the mobile industry doesn't mean anything without the software and the innovation that's coming out of the development community. And I don't think there's anybody better to speak about the development community than Caroline Lewko, who is the purveyor. What do you call yourself? The purveyor of WIP, Wireless Industry Professionals?
I'm the connector.
The connector. Yes, and Caroline, I mean, we've known each other just for a short period of time. I've obviously been in this industry for a while, and I've heard your name everywhere. But I have to tell the story. I think I mentioned it in a previous episode when we were highlighting actually the book we'll be talking about in a few minutes as our rock star of the week, or raised our mobile goblet to you. The fact that I wanted to speak with you so badly that I volunteered to drive to Montreal at 6 in the morning to take you to a Mobile Marketing Association event that was in Montreal, and you were in Ottawa. You happened to, circumstance was incredible, and I got to spend 2 hours pretty much driving around the city trying to find this hotel and this conference with you. So I felt like I was kidnapping you, but you got to do what you got to do to talk to the people that you got to talk to, right? That's what connecting is about.
Yeah, that was fun. I appreciate the ride. And oh, yeah, I remember traffic was bad that day, so we were a little bit late showing up for the session.
Yeah, exactly. Panic sets in, but it was worth it. I didn't mind that we were late. It just gave me a few extra minutes to talk with Caroline. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you coming back. Actually, talking to me after that, it was good. In general,
you were a good driver. You were a good driver.
I was a good driver. I was on my best behavior. I didn't want to scare you into thinking that I wasn't. My kids, on the other hand, tell me that I'm not such a great driver every single day. We're here to talk about the developers, and I want to give a little bit of you a little bit of time to bring up and talk about WIP. So can you for those people who have not heard of WIP, can you just give us your elevator pitch? Talk about what it is that you guys are doing there.
Sure. Well, we're all about developers, and we started, actually, WIP's 6th birthday is going to be next week, so we're really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's still going strong and still growing, but it's because the developer community is really growing, and we just saw a need, way back when, that we thought developers were the most important part of the mobile ecosystem, and we wanted to find a way that we could best help them do what they do better. And really for us that meant, how do we connect them to peers? How do we connect them to different people? How do we connect them to resources? And how do we connect them to the best information? And so that's really what WIP is all about. And, in terms of our tagline today, it's about connecting developers and building developer communities. That's what we do.
So how do you do that? I mean, you do WIP jams, you do all of these awesome things around conferences, and you do your own conference. But how is it that you really bring these guys together?
We just had an awesome conference last week too at Mobile World Congress. We had over 1,100 people attend our WIP Jam session. It was so fantastic. It was just great. The buzz was great. But we do it in a couple of different ways. We're a business, so we have a business model, and we do a lot of consulting on the side to developer programs and helping them build their communities, and to make sure that they're always thinking about, what's the best way for them to work with developers and make it easy for developers. And then we also have, a community side of our business where we offer a lot of different resources and services to developers, like our events, like the information that's on our website, the tips and the tools and the different companies that can be, used for different kinds of information, so developers can, develop faster, develop better applications. And then I know we're going to get to it, but even like the guidebook that we put out, the Parallel Universe, that's what we consider another one of our community activities there to support developers do what they do.
Okay. And so 6 years in, you generate this massive buzz. Something like at Mobile World Congress, 1,100 people for your last session. And as you said, you're doing a lot of writing as well. And the latest publication that came out at the end of February, right in Mobile World Congress, was the Mobile Developer's Guide to the Parallel Universe. Talk about that. Why? What is it? Let it go.
Oh, right. Well, and it's actually, we worked with a company called Enough out of Germany that did an original guide called the Developer's Guide to the Galaxy, which was all about the technical issues. What are the operating systems? What are the different SDKs that you need? And it's in its 10th edition now. But there really wasn't a lot on marketing in that. So we thought we need a companion guide, which is the Parallel Universe. And, for a lot of developers, it's the dark side, right? Marketing is the dark side, so it's the Parallel Universe. So what we wanted to do is provide a similar type of guidebook, the companion guidebook, or it's known too as the little sister because of the little girl on the front. And really talking about a lot of the marketing and business issues that could help developers out.
I'd like to dive in there a little bit because that's what I found the most interesting. The marketing stuff. First of all, you do a great job of it because it fits in any backpack, right? And it is the marketing stuff which is essential for the app economy, for what's going on out there. How do you sort of pare down the marketing stuff? And is there anything that you're noticing, because you're so close to the developer community, that they really needed to pick up on, that they really needed to know, that there was some real gap in their knowledge of how to market?
Yeah, sure. And, just a note on this one, too. This is the first edition, and we expect by the fall we'll put out a second edition. So this is by no means complete, or, there's always going to be room for improvement on it. But, some of the areas where we saw developers really needing the most support is around thinking about versioning of apps. So for a lot of developers, they develop one app, there's one version, and then they think they're just going to make, they're going to be the next Angry Birds. But, when you go back and dig through where the most successful companies are, they pivoted a lot, they iterated, and they had more than one version. For Angry Birds, I think it was their 51st app that they built. For them and others, they're continually looking at what's the next version, meaning, what are the next features and functions? What's the business revenue model around that? And most developers just think, one version, or let's add another, feature and function, and that's not going to help them get anywhere. So we really wanted to pull those ideas through in the book, and I think we did a pretty good job.
What about the monetization models? I mean, I haven't read it straight through, but I did, look at it, and it was very straightforward, talking about exchanges, talking about ad networks. But is there something specific, or are there ways that because this is a how-to, and they are starting out thinking about business, thinking about monetization, thinking about making money. So what are you telling them?
We're not in this for charity.
No, never.
But we're, again, sort of similar things to versioning. Every time you're looking at your app and every month, it doesn't mean there's just one revenue model for one application. You want to think about adding a couple based on, who your base is. You probably have a high user base and a low user base. Subscription models, the freemium sort of premium model, it's probably going to be a bit different for, which subscriber and user group you're targeting. Once you add a different feature or function, a different revenue model may or may not work for that. I mean, within both the internet and mobile space, freemium is really the one that's winning right now. So you got to think about, if you're going to add, if you're adding a feature, you're adding a function, what are people willing to pay for? Maybe they're not willing to pay for anything. So you've got to go and take a look at the mobile advertising route. Or maybe there's a particular set of data or, interesting information or, getting to that next level that then people are willing to pay for in different ways. So it's really a complex issue that needs to be looked at from a lot of different angles.
Mm-hmm. I got a question on that, because it's really interesting, this split, church and state, between development and marketing, development and sales. I've talked to well over 350 mobile entrepreneurs from around the world, long form. And when I ask about revenue models, they kind of bristle, right? Or when I ask about marketing, they kind of bristle. They say, well, you know what? We're trying to create a great experience for users. We're trying to grow our user base, and we've given it thought, but we're not going to implement for quite some time. We don't really know what the model is, and a generalization there, but when you hear something like that, is that sound in this industry? Like you're talking to these developers every event, every day. You're building guides for them. Is this a good thing that I'm hearing, that there isn't a lot of focus on revenue, or is that what you're trying to change with this book?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of hearing two things from you, Rob. I think on one hand, developers need to focus more as soon as they can on making money. But on the other hand, for those of us who've been in mobile for a long time, I started in mobile in 1995. I'm kind of one of the old grandmas of the group. It seems like it's been around for a while, but where things are in terms of, people using smartphones and people using applications, it's still really green days. And so, what we recommend is you just got to trial and error things. That's what the industry is doing. So that's what developers need to do too. Try stuff. It doesn't work, change it. Pivot and change. That's probably the key takeaways in what's going on right now.
What about when you look at this book? Was there anything that stuck out, from the early readers that said that resonated with them, that they really appreciated that you guys brought up in it?
Nothing really specific that I can think about yet. Everybody just loved it and thought it was about time. And I think for folks too who weren't thinking about it as much, it was the beginning of an early walkthrough to think through what those issues are and to help them start to make a plan.
I'd like to take a look at the other side of the equation for the moment, because what you also do, in addition to creating resources for the developer community, is you also consult with companies organizations, platforms trying to build developer communities. So helping them understand the care and feeding of developers, if you will, and nurturing rather than command and control. So that's part of your consulting. You won't give away the special sauce, I'm sure, of the do's and don'ts here, but I would like to hear from you just at a high level, what are you telling your clients, and maybe how has that evolved? Because in the early days, I remember when people were having discussions about, could an operator, because it's not in their DNA, could an operator even have a developer community? Because it's, their command control. This is cultivate and nurture. It's like male-female thing going on here. Or just the old corporate way of seeing the world. And now it's all open. Everybody joins in. Everybody co-creates. Well, what can you share, Caroline?
I guess a couple of things. When we started this 6 years ago, you could count on two hands the number of developer programs. There weren't a lot around. Now, everybody's opening up a developer program. Yeah. Everybody's opening up an API and wants to develop a community. And what's really key is you can't own a developer, and you can't expect them to just be part of one community. And a lot of communities expect that. So you really need to be able to provide information for them to want to use what you've got. Not to demand that they use it, but for them to get interested about what it is. And we actually find the best developer communities are the ones that are actually true advocates for developers within their own company. And developers need to be seen as a key piece of that ecosystem, that it's not, I think because a lot of the suits are used to dealing with the T-shirts, they don't give the T-shirts enough credit for, what they actually are bringing to the table. And, for a developer too, a lot of times, getting that extra check for $5,000 means, payroll's not going to be made by the end of the week, whereas a lot of the folks who are giving out that, giving out the revenue, for them, $5,000 is a drop in the bucket when they're making, $1 million a year, $250,000 salary kind of thing, which pays for a team of 5 developers. So just being able to get perspective on things, be a good evangelist for developers, and not even considering that you might own them will do you really well.
I love that, because you're right. Everything was so insular when this began, which was pick a platform, and
yes.
And now you're starting to see companies like RIM open up their platform to Android developers just to get them part of the ecosystem, and at some point, do you see this kind of morphing into build once, deploy everywhere? Does that ever happen in this?
No, there's the promise of HTML5, which we're kind of all waiting for, but it's not even close to being there yet. And then too, there's all the different developer programs, and we call it about how do you make a great app, and it is about optimizing for the right networks and the right devices, but it's also about how do you. Are you using your own content? Where's the content coming from? I don't know if you guys probably saw this week that ESPN opened up APIs to developers about content. Fantastic. As a developer who'd be interested in sports, that's great. Or we've got companies like Immersion who've got the haptics APIs for, again, making apps just really more exciting. And I think that's great for developers to have all those different options to be creative and get the innovation going in the industry.
Is that going to be pretty much table stakes when you think about content companies? Because part of it's the API for the features, for the functionality, but as it all sort of morphs together in these experiences that go across screens and include content, not just gaming, more central to our lives, it looks as if that might be a model that we're going to see more of, and that's going to have a tremendous impact.
I think we're definitely going to see more of that, more of the brands, the content companies, the folks with some interesting data set that they just, similar to, whether it's a network or we're talking about devices, they just don't have the internal teams that either, can create enough or that can sort of be as innovative as, what we find in a lot of the developer communities. So, hooray for developers. There's a lot more interesting things out there for them.
So what's in the future for you guys? First of all, I mean, go to how do people find out more information about WIP, and then talk to us about what you're doing 2012. How does that shape up for you guys and into 2013?
Well, it's always a blessing and a curse going to Mobile World Congress. It's great fun, and we do a great event, and we've got really great meetings. But guess what? We make way more work for ourselves for the rest of the year. There's no rest for the wicked in this industry. And so, it's a lot of Mobile World Congress cleanup this week for sure. But we've got a number of different events planned, and we're looking at how can we support developers in getting into some more vertical markets. So, for instance, we've teamed up with the London Book Fair in London in mid-April, and we've got an app, sort of app central there with a booth and some different activities. So again, the publishers who've got the content can engage with the developers who are looking for some content. So I think that'll be really fun. And we'll do an event in Brazil towards the end of the year. I mean, so we're looking to, how do we support developers in getting into different markets, and how do we, from a regional perspective, but also from, sort of that vertical market perspective as well. And we'll probably do, the next version of the Parallel Universe for this year coming out. And, looking to support, actually, we're also working with a group called the IWPC, which most people have never heard about. But, they're looking at forming a working group around data optimization for both networks and battery life on phones. And so we've done a survey with them about how developers do that, and working with them to sort of get a working group started, because you probably saw the information that AT&T put out last week or the week before about possibly charging developers for the app data usage, network usage. And from the survey we did, less than 50% of developers are even doing any kind of network testing. So if we can help again bridge that gap, it's better for the whole industry if we can help them optimize that, provide really good information so they can optimize it, and so the operators aren't going to want to charge developers extra dollars for that, because I think that'll kill a lot of pieces of the industry and that creativity.
Do you wonder? Do you just sit there and wonder, like scratch your head and think, what are they doing? Like when you hear something like that, where we're finally at a tipping point, whatever you want to call this in mobile, where the majority of these people are paying an insane amount of money on data plans and phones, and it's become an addiction, right? So it's part of our life. Development communities are sprouting up everywhere. Developers are starting to make some money finally. These prices are finally starting to elevate in the app markets. And then AT&T just says, well, not only have we not really served you very well with our service level, now, developers who are the ones who are building the ecosystems of the future businesses on this planet, we're going to penalize you guys for doing something that, that is going to help us in the long run. Do you ever just sit back and like, what is going on here?
Well, yeah, I think we all sit back and kind of shake our heads a little bit and figure out how we can make everybody play better together. And especially when there's big companies that have big resources, up against the smaller companies that some of it's an awareness, some of it's just being, having access to, some of those resources that can really make a difference. To AT&T's credit, they've come out with a new tool that does help developers, measure network usage, which is really great. And I think we'll see more of that, but it is about, just being able to get everybody sort of working on the same page as quickly as we can, and knowing that it's not an us against them. It's about, it's not about splitting the pie. It's about how do we all help it grow together and make really great things happen. And
not stifle innovation at the same time, which is
better not. Yeah.
Well, because at some point, a chokehold happens, and you just don't want that to come to this point, because people will start to look elsewhere. And we all love this industry so much that we don't want to see that happen. So I'm very appreciative that, Caroline, you and your team are out there fighting for the developers.
Thanks.
So how can people find out more about you guys?
Well, they can come to our website, www.wipconnector.com. We've also got a Facebook page up, which is Wireless Industry Partnership, and Sam, who's working here behind me, just put up, how many pictures did you put up for Mobile World Congress? about 300 or 400. I think he said he took about 1,100 or something. So,
yeah, I saw one. I saw a couple tagged here. Thank you.
I tagged you. You're one of my friends, so I was able to tag you.
I love it. I wish I was there.
Either one of those spots, look for some of our events that are coming up, and I did want to say too, I'm so glad that you guys designated this as Developer Month, but you know, at WIP, every month is Developer Month.
So true.
Well, we'll have you back, Caroline.
That sounds good.
So true.
That's good.
Carolyn, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time. I know that everybody coming back from Barcelona suffers from the Barcelona flu because of no sleep and no food. Both of you ladies are suffering from this, so I appreciate you both doing this very, very much. We've been speaking with Caroline Lewko, who is the Chief Connector, Supreme Connector, Almighty Connector at WIP.
Almighty Connector, yes.
Come on,
yes.
I'm going to turn all red.
Almighty Connector. Go to whipconnector.com, WIPconnector.com, and take a look. And if you happen to be, if you've been at any of these WIP jams or any event that Carolyn's put on, you know what it's like. Share, spread. Let us know what you think, and we'd love to hear some feedback and comments about this and any of our events. And certainly, if you've interacted with WIP, we'd love to hear from you as well. Leave a comment wherever you found this. Caroline, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Rob. Peggy, good to see you guys again.
Thanks, Caroline.
Bye.
And that, Caroline Lewko, somebody who has done some incredible things for the development community. Go and download the book free of charge. It's at whipconnector.com, and boy, I mean, how else can you describe what she's done for this community? It's pretty impressive.
Well, giving them a voice. I mean, it's very important because we're talking so much during this whole month, starting with Andreas Constantino. Sorry, I always say it the other way. Starting with Andreas, my dear friend, whom I only call Andreas. Talking about the evolution of an app economy. And to have an economy, we have to have a situation where all the stakeholders have a voice. We can't talk to all the developers on an individual basis, even though I'm sure that would be pretty cool. So it's organizations like this that are making this possible, because then we can say developer community, brands, marketers. So yeah, absolutely, it's essential.
Well, I love I love this, and developers are going to play an important role in what we're doing going forward as well with MPulse, which we're very excited to get into, but not right now, not this moment. Well, that was it. Caroline Lewko. Thank you, Caroline, for hanging out with us. Even though you were a little under the weather, we really appreciate the fact that you did that, and hopefully you found a tremendous amount of value. Go and visit whipconnector.com and pull it up right here quickly again. Whipconnector.com. Go and get the Mobile Developer's Guide to the Parallel Universe. They also published this other great guide, which is in their 10th edition. She said, as you said, she's going to be pushing out maybe the 11th edition, the Mobile Developer's Guide to the Galaxy. So go and check it out. That's it. I think it's on to the Goblet of Rock time. My favorite time of this. I love doing this because it highlights, hopefully we're bringing at least maybe one company along the line that you've never heard of. And today it's my turn. Today we're going to be talking about this company. It's a really simple company called Snacker. This company is a customized audio news in bite-sized chunks. This is one of these companies that are, I think, redefining the way that you actually get into news. So you download the app. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sign in. You just get the latest news, news, world news, business news, sports news, technology news, lifestyle news, arts and entertainment, all on your device. And then you can start to customize it. And what it does is it just pulls out. You can basically get the news of the world the way that you want it in 5 minutes, in less than 5 minutes. If you only like entertainment, only listen to entertainment. This is the future of radio, and it's pretty cool. It's called Snacker. I would implore you to go to Snacker. Now look at it. It's Snacker without the E, SNACKR.com. It's a free download for the App Store. It's only available on the iPhone. But boy, oh boy, this is when you start to talk about the future of radio. This is it. This is what the power of mobile and the power of assimilating all that. We talked about it before. Developers, all that information that's out there into a one usable bunch. And I think that's why, for me. Do you have something to say on that?
I had just a quick comment, just real quick, because I don't have an iPhone, Rob. Sorry. Uh, is it audio from internet radio and internet, or are you saying audio as in broadcast? You're meaning everything on the internet, pulling it, and
It
only
is,
audio.
and
Am I
it's
correct?
only audio.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to pull it up here. So this is live. We're doing this as a live demonstration. I'm going to pull up. So they've basically got
Okay.
5-minute snacks. So I'm going to just click on the tech and startup one.
A friendly message from your
Okay.
friends at Snackler. Sign up for a Snacker account and get
So you
daily
hear some of the audio coming
snacks
through.
of your friends' birthdays, the weather for the day, latest scores of your favorite.
So this is a little
sports
advertisement.
teams,
Just give it a
and
second
much,
here.
much more. Just
Okay.
tap the settings icon on the top right. And now back to your news.
So I chose that, and then basically you've got 5 or 6 different options that you can play.
Reuters. They are not hungry for big acquisitions. CEO in paper. German chemicals and drugs group Bayer can grow without resorting to more big M&A deals, but won't shy from opportunities that emerge. Chief Executive Marriage Decker said in a newspaper interview.
So that's what you'll get from it. It's actually very, very, very friendly. If I could turn it off here, and it's it really does bring out like just the key. So it's not long form articles. It's like 30 seconds at a time, and I think that's one of the greatest things is that if you really want to stay on top of the news, but you aren't around the news and you want your own snippets, this is why I love Snack. I love the company. Pretty cool. Trying to get them on untether.tv.
So here's your goblet, Rob.
So I'm going to raise it. Can I raise it now?
Yes, now you can. Absolutely.
Goblet of rock and roll to Snacker. SNACKR.com. Go download it. iPhone only, but I'm sure that they're going to come out with an Android version at some point. That's it. Peggy, that was episode number 9. We have nothing left.
Well, we've got.
So we will see you guys. We really appreciate you sticking around and watching. I hope you appreciated the interview with Caroline. If you have any feedback, any comments, suggestions for us, we welcome it. We love the feedback that we're getting already. We'd love some more. Reach out to me at untether@gmail.com. Peggy, you want to share your email address?
Yeah, Peggy at mobilegroove.com.
And of course, you can find Peggy at mobilegroove.com or at Peggy Ann on Twitter. What else? You just consolidated your Twitter accounts, didn't you? You brought it into...
Yeah, I did that. It's because I rebranded from mSearch Groove, which was how I started out. I wrote a book on mobile search. It was the first. I was identifiable with search. We do have a month dedicated to search. Yeah, it's true to my roots. So I went to Mobile Groove, and I tried to move people because it says if you're going to start a new account, move people. Well, that didn't work. So I had over 1,000 followers over at mSearch Groove, didn't know what to do. So I'm calling it now GrooveWire. And what it is it's going to be the Twitter feed that is, yes, it's about Mobile Groove, but also partners. So that's where I'll be doing things like retweeting you, Rob. So that's what it's there for.
You have to follow it then.
Yes. Yes. It's everything from Mobile Groove plus partners. Peggy Ann is private a little bit, so you'll get a couple of my rants or call-outs. And then, of course, Mobile Groove is a little bit of everything. So across the 3, you'll have it all.
Everything. Personal, professional, and some rants.
Yes.
I love it. And, of course, you can find me at Rob Woodbridge, at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter, or you can follow at Untether, and that is the business side of this that my good friend and partner Douglas Soltis, a.k.a. at Tron, takes care of us through that account. And, of course, you can reach out to untether.tv, untether@gmail.com as well. Really appreciate you being here. We'll be back for episode number 10 next week. We'll have another guest around the development community, and we will be covering some of the key trends that happen probably at South by Southwest. We'll see if we're right. Until then, thank you guys. Really appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time on M Pulse. See you, Peggy.
See you, Rob.